Under the Trump administration, the DOJ and the FBI will once again become the premier crime-fighting agencies on the face of the earth. But with you leading the way, it'll soon be the most admired and most respected of all. You're going to be more respected, and I really believe that there's also a lot of things to solve, a lot of problems to solve. But that's going to put you in the upper tier and maybe the top tier, and I believe that's going to happen. I'm so proud of the people in this room. But first, we must be honest about the lies and abuses that have occurred within these walls. Unfortunately, in recent years, a corrupt group of hacks and radicals within the ranks of the American government obliterated the trust and goodwill built up over generations. They weaponized the vast powers of our intelligence and law enforcement agencies to try and thwart the will of the American people. You remember the 51 intelligence agents that said, as an example, that Hunter Biden's laptop from hell came from Russia when they knew it came right from his bedroom. They knew that. It was a big lie, and they knew it so well. They spied on my campaign, launched one hoax and disinformation operation after another, broke the law on a colossal scale, persecuted my family, staff, and supporters, raided my home, Mar-a-Lago, and did everything within their power to prevent me from becoming the President of the United States. They tried to turn America into a corrupt, communist, and third world country. But in the end, the thugs failed and the truth won. Freedom won, justice won, democracy won, and above all, the American people won. There could be no more heinous betrayal of American values than to use the law to terrorize the innocent and reward the wicked. And that's what they were doing at a level that's never been seen before. And it's exactly what you saw with Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and their cronies to do the building of the last 4 years. They ripped, what they've ripped down is incalculable. But what you're going to build up is likewise something that will be breaking all sorts of records. They set loose violent criminals while targeting patriotic parents at school board meetings. They dropped charges against Antifa and Hamas supporters while labeling traditional Catholics as domestic terrorists. The Catholics, we did very well with the Catholic vote, so I want to thank them for that. They imported illegal alien murderers, drug dealers, and child predators from all over the world to come into our country while putting elderly Christians and pro-life activists on trial for singing hymns and for saying prayers. They went to jail for that. Our predecessors turned this Department of Justice into the Department of Injustice. But I stand before you today to declare that those days are over. On day one, I signed an executive order directing Attorney General to ensure that anyone who murders a police officer immediately, with as fast a trial as we can have, gets the death penalty. So now, as the chief law enforcement officer in our country, I will insist upon and demand full and complete accountability for the wrongs and abuses that have occurred. The American people have given us a mandate like few people thought possible. We won every single swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of people. We won districts, 2,750. Think of that, 2,750 districts compared to 505. So we won it at levels that have, I don't believe, ever seen before. That's the one where you see the map of the United States and it's all red. Red for Republican, not for communist. Red for Republican. They would like it to turn red for communist, but it didn't work out that way. The American people have given us a mandate and really a far-reaching investigation is what they are demanding into the corruption of our system. And that's exactly, I'm sure, what Pam and Kash and everyone else mentioned here and not mentioned is going to be doing. We will expel the rogue actors and corrupt forces from our government. We will expose and very much expose their egregious crimes and severe misconduct, of which was levels you've never seen anything like it. It's going to be legendary. It's going to also be legendary for the people that are able to seek it out and bring justice. We will restore the scales of justice in America, and we will ensure that such abuses never happen again in our country. And that's why on day one I signed an executive order banning all government censorship and directing the removal of every bureaucrat who conspired to attack free speech and many other things and values in America. My administration stripped the security clearances of the disgraced intelligence agents who lied about Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. We revoked the clearances of deranged Jack Smith, Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, and the crooked law firms that aided their partisan persecutions. And I went through it. These are state and city courts, and the corruption is unbelievable. We also terminated the clearances of the Biden crime family and Joe Biden himself. He didn't deserve it. In fact, he was essentially found guilty, but they said he was incompetent, and therefore let's not find him guilty, I guess. Nobody knows what that ruling was, but I didn't want any part of it. I think I would have rather been found guilty than what they found with him. They said he didn't know what the hell he was doing, and therefore he's let him go. I pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been grossly mistreated. We removed the senior FBI officials who misdirected resources to send SWAT teams after grandmothers and J6 hostages. And it was a great honor for me to fire, I will tell you this, a great honor to fire James Comey. A great, great honor. That was nothing. There was no better day. A lot of people said, oh, that's too bad you did that. And they said that's going to be, and you know what? A year later, they said that actually saved the administration, because the level of corrupt things that we learned after that turned out to be that they were doing, in fact, really bad things. He was a terrible person, did terrible things, and persecuted people, and all in the guise of being an angel, but he wasn't an angel. We created a brand new DOJ task force on anti-Christian bias. And under Director Patel, we're getting the FBI agents out of the headquarters in Washington, D.C., and back on the streets in pursuit of dangerous criminals where they belong and where they want to be. And, you know, you have that big FBI building, and it's a very big building, and they were going to build an FBI headquarters 3 hours away in Maryland, a liberal state, but that has no bearing on what I'm about to say, but we're going to stop it. Not going to let that happen. We're going to build another big FBI building right where it is, which would have been the right place, because the FBI and the DOJ have to be near each other. You can't that's one thing I did learn from this persecution. The FBI and the DOJ work together. Now, in my case, they work together for bad purposes, but they do. They were always together. So how can you have one that's 3 hours away? But one thing I said to Kash, well, we're going to get a great building built. It's going to be a magnificent building. He said, sir, we don't need that kind of room. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm just going to take a old Department of Commerce building that's about 25% the size, and that's what I need. We're going to have the best staff that you've ever seen, and that's what I need. It's in a nice location, but I don't need that big building. Why don't you just sell the site to somebody? And we're going to be very happy, and they want to have far fewer people. But we also want to have them in D.C., and if for no other reason, we like having law enforcement walking the streets of our capital, because when the bad guys are out there and they see there's an FBI agent, that's the ultimate in law enforcement, and they're not going to be acting so bad. We're cleaning up our city. We're cleaning up this great capital, and we're not going to have crime, and we're not going to stand for crime. And we're going to take the graffiti down, and we're already taking the tents down, and we're working with the administration. And if the administration can't do the job, we're going to have to take it back and run it through the federal government. But we hope the administration is going to be able. So far, they've been doing very well. The mayor's been doing a good job. We said there are tents galore right opposite the State Department. They have to come down, and they took them down right away. But we want to have a capital that can be the talk of the world, and we're going to have a crime-free capital. When people come here, they're not going to be mugged or shot or raped. They're going to have a crime-free capital again. It's going to be cleaner and better and safer than it ever was, and it's not going to take us too long. There's a new phenomena that is taking place with these violent, vicious lawyers that we have all over. They play the ref. You know what playing the ref is? Like other miracles that happen too. My ear is still throbbing. That was a miracle. What happened to our country was so sad. What they've done in 4 years to our country with the borders, with Afghanistan, the most embarrassing period of time, allowing the Russian situation, it was never going to happen with Ukraine. Allowing October 7th to happen would have never happened because under me, Iran was totally broke. They had no money. They weren't giving any money to Hamas or Hezbollah. It was totally broke. But allowing inflation, look at what inflation's done to people, been so devastating. And now you see that, by the way, price of eggs is down 35% in the last week and a half. Inflation's down, interest rates are down, gasoline has come down to a level that we haven't seen in a long time. All things that we wanted to do, because then everything else is going to be coming down. We want it to come down. We want bacon to come down, and groceries, a term I used to use. It's sort of an old-fashioned term, but I used to use it on the campaign trail, those last 90 perfect, beautiful days. We just hit it. And I want to thank Susie. You have done a great job, Susie Wiles. There's no difference than speaking to a judge or shouting to a judge or doing whatever you have to do in a courthouse. They're doing it behind the back. They're usually doing it anonymously. They're saying anonymously, off the record, the judge is no good, but everybody knows where it's coming from. And it's totally coordinated. It's a campaign, and it's by the same scum that you have been dealing with for years, like guys like Andrew Weissman, deranged Jack Smith. There's a guy named Norm Eisen. I don't even know what he looks like. His name is Norm Eisen of Crew. He's been after me for 9 years. Now, Crew is a charitable organization. And the reason I'm saying this, Todd, is I'm only going to get one chance to say this. But these are bad people. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he looks like. But everything I read is Norm Eisen of Crew. And Crew is a charitable organization. And that's a political thing. His sole life is to get Donald Trump. And he's been vicious and violent, and he's trying, and he probably had pretty good success over the years. But with me, how did he do? I think I'm president. Am I here because I'm president? But we had to take all of that abuse. Even during the trials, we had to take tremendous abuse. Like, you know, these wonderful guys, they're not legitimate people. They're horrible people. They're scum. And you have to know that. And you're going to have these cases where you can't allow yourselves to be deflected. You just can't let it happen. You have such a higher calling. And I believe that CNN and MSDNC, who literally write 97.6% bad about me, are political arms of the Democrat Party. And in my opinion, they're really corrupt and they're illegal. What they do is illegal. It makes no difference how big a victory I had. I can have the biggest victory in history. It makes no difference what kind of a failure the other side has. These people are going to go after me. And I said it during the other night, during the big speech on Tuesday night. I said about Democrats, and I don't like that. I have great respect, by the way, for what Schumer did today. He went out and he said that I'm going to have to vote with the Republicans because it's the right thing to do. I couldn't believe what I heard. But, you know, I think he's going to get some credit for it. I think, let's see what happens tonight with the big vote as it comes. But these networks and these newspapers are really no different than a highly paid political operative. And it has to stop. It has to be illegal. It's influencing judges, and it's really changing law, and it just cannot be legal. I don't believe it's legal. And they do it in total coordination with each other. And everything we do, we're restoring law, restoring order, and restoring public safety in America. That's what we want to do. And we're bringing honor and integrity and accountability back to the highest levels of the FBI, DOJ, and throughout our government. We're bringing our country back faster than anyone ever thought possible. We're working so hard at doing it, and we want fairness in the courts. The courts are a big factor. The elections, which were totally rigged, are a big factor. We have to have honest elections. We have to have borders, and we have to have courts and law that's fair. Well, we're not going to have a country. Crooked Joe Biden got us into a real mess with Russia and everything else he did, frankly, but he didn't know about it, and he, generally speaking, signed it with AutoPen. So how would he know? That AutoPen is a big deal. I don't know. You know, they're having who's who's doing this? So when my people come up, Will and all of the people, Steve, they come up and, sir, this is an executive order. They explain it to me, and 90% of the time I sign it. 99% of the time I say do it, but they come up and I sign it. But you don't use auto pen. It's number one, it's disrespectful to the office. Number two, maybe it's not even valid because who's getting him to sign? He had no idea what the hell he was doing. If he did, all of these bad things wouldn't be happening right now. But we're going to get you back into a great position, and we've already started. They say that we had the most successful first month of presidency. Not a long time, but it's still a lot. It's like if you're a golfer, sinking a 3-foot putt on the first hole gives you confidence to sink something on the second hole. But if you miss that first putt, you don't like to have the putt on the second hole and the third hole. It could be a very bad experience. It's nice to get that first month, and now we have more than a month. Now we have a month and a half, and it's going really, really well. I can tell you as a little secret, although the cameras are blazing back there, so it's not that much. But I think we're doing well, as you have been hearing about Ukraine. I think we're doing now well with Russia. We're speaking with President Putin. We want to get the war over. Not only have we spent maybe $350 billion to Europe's, think of that, $350 billion to $100 billion, and yet we're across the ocean far away, so it shouldn't have been that way, but Biden let that happen too. And we're getting a deal where we're going to get that back, but much more importantly are the lives that we're talking about. On average, 2,000 young people are being killed every single day. Now, they're not from here. They're from nowhere close to here, but they're young people. They're human beings, and they have parents. They have sisters and brothers, the mothers and fathers, the friends and the families and the towns where they grew up. And they're losing, on average, 2,000, even 2,500 a week. And I want to get it stopped. And we've had some very good calls today with Russia and with Ukraine. They've agreed for a ceasefire if we can get it with Russia. And it's not easy. It's a tough one. But I think we're doing it. And as the Secretary General said yesterday of NATO, a terrific guy, he said without Trump, we wouldn't be talking about it. It would just go on for years, and millions more people, millions of people have been killed, but millions more people would be killed. And he said it was a great honor. Without me, it would just keep going on. We're looking for the ceasefire now with Russia, and we've had some very good talks about it. We've had some very good responses. And I can tell you that there was a case where there would have been no war if I were president, and it's just 100% would not have happened, would never have happened. I used to speak to President Putin a lot about it. I said, don't do it. Don't do it. I won't tell you what the consequence was. I won't tell you what he said. But if he believed even 5% of what I said, then he would say, I'm not going to do it. And I think he did. But we had a good relationship, and we had a professional relationship, and his respect for this country. And I think we've had some very good results. So, I haven't been able to say that to anybody else. I haven't wanted to say it until just before I came here. I got some pretty good news. So, but we have to see what happens. It's still a long way to go. The fighting is unbelievable. Russia has a large group of Ukrainian soldiers, as we speak, surrounded and in grave danger. They've been able to surround them. They're in grave danger. Biden should have never let this war happen. First of all, you don't want to pick on somebody that's a lot larger than you, even with the money. There's a lot of money that we gave them and a lot of equipment. We make the best military equipment in the world, but even with all of that, it's unbelievable. Right now you have a lot of Ukrainian soldiers that are encircled and in grave danger, and I've asked them not to kill those soldiers, please, not to kill those soldiers. We don't want them killed. It's such a shame to see what's happened. A thing like that would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Israel, Iran had no money. They were totally broke. Think of it. They had no money to give to anybody. They were totally broke. And within a short period of time, as soon as Biden came in, he took out all the sanctions. In China and everybody else that wasn't buying oil from Iran was buying it at levels that they never spent before. And it was a sad thing. And if you look at Afghanistan, that was probably what got Putin started, because when he looked at how horribly we looked, I think the most embarrassing day, not that we got out because we were getting out, I would have been out faster than them. I was the one that got it down to the right level. But we would have kept Bagram, the big Air Force base. We would have kept it. Right now, China occupies Bagram. And the reason we would have kept it is because they were 1 hour away from where China has and builds its nuclear missiles and weapons. And they gave that up. At the dark of night, they left the lights on. And they left the dogs behind, by the way. A lot of people say, what about all the dogs? They had a lot of dogs. And they left the dogs behind. And what a shame. What a shame. The way we got out, I think it was the most humiliating time in the history of our country. The way it happened, not that we were getting out because we wanted to get out, but we would have gotten out with dignity and strength. And what a difference a rigged and crooked election had on our country when you think about it. And the people who did this to us should go to jail. They should go to jail, because we have to say, God bless. We're lucky we're still here, frankly. And this whole thing could lead, I think we have it. I think we have it. But this could lead to World War III very easily. Could very easily lead to World War III. But I think we're in pretty good shape. A lot better than we were before we got involved. That I can tell you. It was going. That was heading into World War III territory, and that would have been a war like no other because of nuclear weapons and other types of weapons that, hey, people you don't even want to know about. But as many of you do know, well, we're focused on persecuting, and these people were really focused on persecuting Republicans. The last administration presided over the worst increase in violent crime in our country in many, many decades. We had levels of violence and crime, and a lot of it had to do with the illegal immigrants that came in. Remember when I used to complain about it? Because I knew how tough they were, how mean they were. And they said, no, people that come into our country are all wonderful people. No, they're not wonderful. These are stone-cold killers. These are killers like, they make our killers look nice by comparison. They make our killers look nice. These are rough, tough people with the tattoos all over their face. Historically speaking, I don't want to discriminate against anybody, but historically speaking, they're not going to be the head of any major bank that we know of. These are rough people. These are rough killer people, and they allowed them in by the millions. In major cities like New York, Chicago, and Washington, mothers can't walk their children to the park without fear of being shot or killed or raped or anything. Women can't ride the subway without worrying that a hoodlum will shove them onto the train tracks. In New York, it's happened twice in the last couple of weeks. They're standing there, perfect Wall Street gentleman in one case, and another person who was a worker, good worker, electrician, gets pushed into a train going 45 miles an hour just prior to the train, not stopping, going to go through that. So I know the stations very well. I used to take the subway. I used to feel safe. When I was young, I'd go to, my parents would drop me off at the subway. I'd take the subway to my school. Can you believe it? Today, they wouldn't be doing that. And we want to get a country back maybe where you can do that again, Pam. But it's so sad to see what's taking place under the Biden regime. Average monthly homicides increased by 14%. Property crime rose tremendously. Violent crime went up at least 37% that they know of. Rape soared by 42%. Car theft rose by 48%. And robberies surged to 63 to 100%. They don't even know what the number is. And I have no higher mission as President of the United States than to end this killing and stop this law-breaking and to making America safe again. And that's what you're all about in this room. We want to protect Americans, and we protect everybody that's in our country, American or not American. We want to have a safe and proud country. We're joined today by dozens of police officers, sheriffs and sheriffs, deputies from all across the country. My message to these law enforcement heroes is simple. With me in the White House, you once again have a president who will always have your back. And last month, I fired all the radical left pro-crime U.S. attorneys appointed by Joe Biden. There were so many that were bad. And I know there were some that were probably very good, but there were so many that were so bad and so evil, so corrupt. Instead of having Marxist prosecutors who want to put police officers in handcuffs and go after a police officer rather than a criminal, I appointed patriotic, tough-on-crime warriors who will partner with police to put dangerous offenders behind bars, put them in jail. We're fully reviving 1033 program to provide state and local law enforcement with surplus military equipment, that we have so much of it. I did it in my last administration, and I remember Obama wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it before me, would not do it, because he thought it made them look too strong, too military. I said, no, that's what I want them to look like. I want them to look strong. And it was protective, defensive equipment. We had billions of dollars. I gave it out, and now I'm going to have a chance to give it out again. Over the past 4 years, other countries emptied out their prisons and jails, mental institutions, and insane asylums, and sent the killers, drug smugglers, and bloodthirsty inmates from the filthiest dungeons of the world straight into the USA. And open border. We had an open border policy. Anybody could come in, no matter what you were, no matter where you came from, no matter what you looked like, no matter what you were doing, no matter what you did, no matter how many people you murdered, you could come right into our country. We have murderers right now walking the streets. But I want you to know that we are working every day to expel these savages from our country and ensure that what happened to your loved ones will never happen again. So their legacy is going to be a great one. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. On day one of my administration, I declared a national emergency on our southern border. In our first full month in office, we achieved the lowest level of illegal border crossings ever recorded, okay? Even lower than 4 years ago. For years, Democrats and the media kept saying that we needed new legislation. We had to have new legislation. We needed it immediately, and I never had legislation. I had the best border in the history of our country for almost 4 years. And by the time I got out, we had the lowest numbers ever. My favorite chart of all time was brought down that day. And on that chart said we had the lowest numbers ever. But it turned out that we really didn't need new legislation. All you needed was a new president. And all of our law enforcement is just incredible. All of you guys are amazing. And the people of our country respect you and they love you. And a lot of times you don't hear that because you have to listen to the fake news back there. But they have great respect for you. So I just want you to know that. And you know, that includes our fire departments, too. They don't get spoken about enough. They voted for me like at 94%, so I have to mention them. I have no choice, right? The law enforcement, fire, everybody, they're phenomenal. Basically, first responders, because that's what they are. They're first responders. And we're ending the migrant occupation of America. And what we're doing now is we're liberating our cities and our suburbs and our towns. And you see a big difference. I'm getting calls all the time from even leaders of other countries saying, sir, the whole world feels liberated now. It feels like there's a light over America, but there's a light over the whole world. I hear that so much. It's so nice to hear, too. And I feel it. So I just want to say God bless America.